MGTOW man, welcome back. I think that humility has a really bad image, not just in MGTOW, but I think in general. Humility is snubbed because it's associated with being a nice guy. And obviously, we don't want to be nice guys, quote unquote. But whether or not society communicates this, the case is that being a nice guy is considered being less than a man, which it is. Nice guys have emerged with the advent of greater technology and greater innovation around us. I think that they're linked. So effeminization is created where masculinity needs to exist. So they have to act that way in order to balance things out that technology has enabled us to do that we were only able to accomplish by innate masculine energy. So it's kind of a stretch, but work with me on this. So humility is bred into us as boys. The missing link is that we don't understand and don't appreciate the balance between taming our environment and taming our mind, things that are expected of men. So men, when they're born, men when they grow up, when they're in that youth stage, they're expected to kind of just tame their environment. They're expected to dominate around them physically. You see boys wrestling, you see boys playing sports. As they get older, they're expected to tame their mind as well. They're expected to go to class. They're expected to get a job. And eventually they're expected to do both. So the latter is perceived to be humility, taming your mind. So if you're intellectual, you must tame your mind. You must be a nice guy. That is where the cross-up, the mishap, a lot of guys fall into, and a lot of people misconstrue what it actually means to be a man because of this. So it's the balance of civility in the male mind against the vigor that drives men to accomplish things. So weirdly, humility is defined as a modest or low view of one's own importance, humbleness. So humility is interesting because I read that I essentially think of a mind trick or a lie. We are lying to ourselves that we're not important. It's kind of like ghosting. We say to ourselves that we're not for the sake of understanding our limitations, for garnering the appreciation of other people, but that doesn't mean we have no confidence. Actually, we lie to ourselves that we are low while we actually believe that we're on top. Humility and humbleness externally have a different application in MGTOW because it's essentially a form of ghosting. That's one of the key things to understand about MGTOW. The strongest people are the strongest, yet nobody knows. If you're strong and other people know it, you're not as strong as you could be. Think about that. The sweet spot of humility and internal power is what we're aiming for, because the more that you are seen as strong, the more that you're seen as a resource. The more that you're seen as having a target on your back. The sweet spot is being in the middle. The sweet spot is always increasing, always improving, always bettering yourself, never saying you are. That's where we want to be. So stop with the humility stuff, essentially. So today's video was brought forward by a comment that questioned MGTOW because it seemed to that person that MGTOW was inviting men to be far too humble. So that's why I said stop with humility. Humble to the point of being weak. So that was the comment. He says, one of the things I'll never understand about MGTOW is the discussion and the obsession with being humble. Humility isn't necessarily a good thing. If you aren't the greatest, say you are until you become the greatest. The thing is, I'm not disagreeing with the second thing. I'm not saying we shouldn't try to be the greatest. In MGTOW, there's really no reason to say we are. A lot of men only want to be great because they know that it's going to guarantee them access to attention from other people. And most notably, attention from women for a lot of men. So in MGTOW, we are endorsing you become the greatest for the sake of accomplishing that. It always gives you something to do. It always gives you something to pursue. Humility to the world, arrogance to yourself is what we're going for. I'm not going for false confidence. You need something to pour into. You truly need to have something to offer in order to feel confident. But like it says in Into the Wild, sometimes it's better to feel strong than actually be it. Or maybe you feel it until you are. The outlet is what's missing to push some people to that edge. When good outlets come into my life, I can be internally arrogant and care less about what other people see in me. That's where we want to be. And I got this email that made me think of this, so I'm going to read it and think of the difference between suppression and expression. In regards to stoicism, I realized what I had been doing was self-suppression rather than self-control. There's a key difference between the two that I'm aware of now. I know that I've been living in fear of being taken advantage of, and to combat it, I had been expending energy to shove down the expression of anything I thought would make me a target based on my life experiences. This leads me to feeling depressed, lethargic, hopeless, and resentful of the very things about myself that make me who I am. Standing divided, furthermore, I had been treating ghosting as a sprint rather than a marathon, because it is a marathon. It's an everyday thing. It's a part of who you are. I have to remind myself there's no rush. I'm always making progress one step at a time. And the thing about MGTOW is you're always going to be shamed from other people for not making progress in your life because they're not seeing the same progress that they're expecting to make in their own. Don't measure your life by theirs. I will choose to be on my own team rather than against myself. I've come a long way from being the doormat, people-pleasing, emotional tampon utility I used to be. There is no need to blame myself, the world, or hold any grudges for anything and any reason. I just need daily perspective of the things that matter to me, else I lose sight. Pragmatically, what I'm missing right now is an outlet. This is the key thing. MGTOW men, it's far easier to go your own way once you find that outlet. And when you know what that outlet is, you might not have that outlet forever. Keep pursuing that outlet, but know that you might need a new one. Instead of suppressing the expression of myself, I need to control it by channeling my feelings and passions into something productive. I know I've been afraid to be vulnerable with people in real life again because I never wanted to relapse as a nice guy with a target on my face again. So there's that connection between a nice guy and a target. Still, I'll make mistakes and remind myself there is no rush. I do recognize the threats are very real out there. This gynocentrism takes over more and more. And the margin of error men are allowed to slip up with what they say out loud is very slim. Self-validation is important, and it's a marathon, not a sprint. But when I mess up, and I will have to keep practicing forgiving myself and picking myself up. And once again, it's a balance of forgiving yourself and not forgiving yourself. Humility and arrogance. It's always a balance between suppression and self-expression. Going on, I'll be getting more involved online as my outlet. I need risk and vulnerability to feel alive, and the internet is a place I can interact with other men intentionally and without the same fear of retaliation or shaming that's all around me in person. As one of my blue pill Christian buddies said to me recently, "You've got so much to give, man. Why are you holding back? Blah, blah, blah." Didn't care for his shame, and there are only very good reasons I won't visit his church, but on that he's right, only I'm doing it for me. So one of the first things that comes when you are internally arrogant, externally humble, is that you're able to say no the right time and you're able to say yes to the right things. In that you're able to be healthy and that you're able to be the best that you can be in your daily life because you have more energy to pursue it, and you'll feel less weighed down by the constraints, often the invisible constraints that you put out there believing to exist that other people have but don't actually have for you. So you know your identity, be humble, but that doesn't mean that you're not arrogant. Internal arrogance, I'm not saying false arrogance, knowing what's real, believing in yourself and establishing something to feel that arrogance about, but not needing to say anything about it. I'm not saying you can't be humble, I'm not saying you can't be arrogant. There is that balance between. People suppress who they really are because who they are might not fit in the box of what another person sees until they are that person, and then they realize they should have been that all along because that other person was looking for that, would have more appreciation for that. A productive, humble soul is one of the most powerful entities in the world, and it's something that MGTOW endorses. sunrisecity@gmail.com, Sunrise City on Twitter. Hoodie's up, hoodie's out.